Cervantes.
Aye.
Fu. Harp Sheets.
Aye. Here.
Nystrom.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
Riscate.
Here.
Rogers.
Here.
Tate.
Here.
And repeating Fu.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you to the board for coming back so promptly. I appreciate that. We are going to jump right back into agenda item number 10, licensing timeframes update. We were hearing public comment when we broke for lunch, and Mr. Moderator, can you help us get right back in there to public comment?
Absolutely. Next is Dr. Willingham. Hold on just a moment. We are sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
This opportunity. My name is Dr. Michelle Willingham. I am both a member of the CPA board and also an internship training director and a private practitioner. While I respect that the staff seem to be doing the best they can with their available resources and are even looking for ways to make processes more timely and efficient, I've yet to hear anyone on the staff or this board acknowledge the genuine state of crisis that your applicants, licensees, and mental health consumers are currently in. Nor have I heard any radical or outside the box types of solutions. As both an internship training director and a private practitioner who employs psychological associates, when I hear Ms. Chung say that even if more staff were approved tomorrow, she can't hire them until 2024, makes it clear that business as usual is not going to solve this problem. I'm sitting here just wondering, what specifically is this board going to do to address the immediate backlog and the impact it's having? And if the board has read through some of the comments that were included in the CPA data, you're going to see how painful this has been for applicants, licensees, just trying to get on with their careers, and how much of an impact it's having on client care. So again, I just feel like I appreciate very much that this is on the agenda and that it's being addressed. But thus far, again, I've heard no outside the box radical ideas about how this is going to get fixed tomorrow instead of in 2024. So I'd really like to hear from the board what their thoughts are on that. Thank you.
All right. And next we have Dr. Schaefer. Hold on just a moment, and we are sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Yes, thank you. I'm the chair, as I mentioned earlier, of California Psychology Internship Council and the chair-elect for Division 2 on Education and Training. I just want to harken back to what the other speakers or commenters rather have stated previously. Through KPIC and Division 2, we've heard from students that have repeatedly stated that they don't have a call back when making a call to the division, to the board, to the office rather, that they don't have responses to their emails, that they are waiting long times and such. I know that the board has its challenges, and personnel and allocation of personnel being one of them. And if we look at the statistics and kind of extrapolate from where things are at present with 7 staff, even with an additional staff, and looking at the rate compared to a few years ago, it's going to be challenging. But in the interim, as you struggle to find out an answer, I would plead with you to at least focus on returning calls and responding to emails. The angst it stimulates in those trying to seek licensure and along the process is outstanding. So I appreciate you hearing all these comments, and I too, as the last speaker stated, I'll be looking forward to hearing what your thoughts are on how you may approach it. Thank you so much.
And that was our last request for comment. Do you wish to return to the agenda?
Yes, please, and thank you very much. So at this time, I'd like to open for board comment and to include Ms. Sorek in that as well. But I would like to just say thank you, Ms. Chung, for your presentation, for trying to be responsive to all of our applicants. And thank you to CPA for providing a survey to the members and providing the feedback comments, which, as everyone here knows, are in the agenda materials, is very helpful and insightful. So board comment, or Ms. Sorek, please. I see Dr. Harb Sheets, then Mr. Fu.
Okay, I will go. This is Dr. Harb Sheets. I would like to respond to a couple of things. I think I remember, and Ms. Chung can correct me if I'm wrong, that there was some acknowledgement about trying to identify a staff person who can respond to calls, that there was that recognition and that that is in the process. And I agree how important that is. I would also like to add that I think I can speak for the other licensed members that as we all work in the profession, we see and we hear from our colleagues the dire state. So many of us get calls for potential new clients, are just not able to take them. And we see and how difficult it is in talking with these people and our colleagues who supervise psychological assistants. So I just hope that those of you who have made those comments can know that we do see it, we do care about it. And I just wanted to communicate that. And Ms. Chung, if you could also comment if I was correct or not, that you are working on trying to have somebody organizationally who can respond to inquiries more promptly.
Dr. Hapshi, thank you. Yes, in my presentation, I mentioned about redirecting an office technician position to the licensing unit, hoping to fill some of the communication gap and which would be also including responding to inquiries. And this position is posted with a final filing date of August 22nd. So in a few days, we will be able to review some applications and hopefully to get this person on board.
Thank you for that, because I do agree it's crucial that people who call or people who email do get responded to. Thank you.
Mr. Fu?
Thanks so much, Dr. Tate. First of all, I would like to say that Dr. Harpsheets, your comments on item 9 that started this entire conversation, for me, set just the tone for the continued professionalism that our licensing unit demonstrates in responding to this feedback, which I know is incredibly difficult to hear in a public setting, in addition to the private feedback that I know many board members and advocates have shared. And so it's with that spirit that I continue that discussion here and ask my questions to Ms. Chung and to talk about some of what we just heard in public comment. When you asked, one of the questions I had was what are the steps or to review the steps with regard to addressing the non-response times. But I would be helpful for me to understand in terms of prioritization, because there's a lot of different needs that need to be addressed, what you're seeing as the top 3 priorities. And then a related question, and perhaps the first question is like, what's the diagnosis, if you will, on why, about 50% of survey respondents indicated that they never heard back. Would just be curious to understand some of the underlying issues and your take on why that's happening.
Mr. Fu, I believe you're directing that question to me, correct?
Oh, yes. Sorry, apologies.
Oh, okay, thank you. No worries. Thank you for clarification. I believe in the past couple of years that when we noticed that our number of staff have gone down and we were not able to get immediate help at that time, So we have to make the difficult decision to prioritize the processing of application. So at that time, we're really focusing in that part, keeping in mind that there are many demands about mental health services out there. So we want to get as many qualified individual out there to get license and registration so that they could be serving Californians in that sense. But also we realize that we need to be responsive to our applicants and public because they have questions regarding the process or general questions because times are changing, they're unsure of a lot of things and want to seek some guidance. Then we have to really do the balancing act of working on the application so that we can get them out, but also work to respond to them. But because of the short staff, that we don't really want to talk about that a lot because we know that is a problem. And then we are taking proactive steps to address the issue. What else can we do without, like thinking outside the box? What else can we do at the time that we cannot get position? So we don't want to use that as an excuse because we're short-staffed. So we can. There are things that we can't do. We want to do it, but because of priority, we prioritize application. But we also try our best, and we realize that some inquiries will fall through the cracks. But we will work on to improve that responsiveness. Such as redirecting the OT position to our units, and we will be getting additional help temporarily, like an additional retired annuitant to our unit so that we will be able to address those issues, hopefully more effectively. I hope that answers your question.
It did. I really appreciate it. I'll ask one more because I know there are other board members with questions as well. I think just reflecting on it, that the application process itself is a consumer protection measure to evaluate the qualifications of applicants. And I'm curious to hear from you in terms of a plan to, which you just shared in the previous presentation. What are your goals for reducing the times? Like what would an ideal turnaround time look like for application review and approval, assuming, of course, that the applicant has submitted all the materials requested and it's a full application? I'm curious, what is the goal that you're working towards as a unit in terms of those timelines?
I think at one point when we were fully staffed with the position at our optimum, we were able to have like a turnaround time about 2 to 4 weeks. That was really something that we were proud of, and we hope to one day that we will be able to get back to that timeline if we get the resources needed. So that would be the ultimate goal for us to be able to get back to there about, I think, let's just say like a month, like 2 to 4 weeks. It depends on the types of application, what kind of process that they go through.
Thank you, Ms. Chung. I have one more question, but I'll wait until the other board members are done because I know there's a long queue.
So we have Ms. Nystrom and then Dr. Rogers.
Hi, Ms. Chung. This is Julie Nystrom. As everybody else, I really want to echo, all of the effort that you're putting into making necessary changes, and I know that your heart is, absolutely on board with doing everything you can. So please, I hope you hear that we know how hard you and your teams are working. But one of the questions that came in had to do with the information that the board will address when a caller calls in. And I'm just curious, if I'm a licensee or an applicant calling in and I have clarification information that I'm seeking, At what point, what is the next step? Am I put into is my information taken and then it's referred to somebody? I'm interested in knowing that process a little bit.
Thank you, Ms. Nystrom. So it depends on the inquiries, what type are they? If they are applicant related inquiries that we have already worked on them, if they're seeking clarification, it will be directed back to the assigned analyst to answer those questions, because it will be the one that who are the most familiar with the application material and where the applicant would be. And for general inquiries that are non-related to an application, it will be answered according to the order that they received. Everybody in the unit right now is helping in responding to those inquiries, so they will receive the inquiries that is being distributed to them for follow-up and to respond to.
And then if it's something that the board doesn't give, advice on, or does the inquiry get responded to, even if it's something that maybe the board won't give, advice on?
So if it's something that the board doesn't have an answer for, and if we know where to refer to them, we will let them know that we don't have the answer, and it might be a good idea to contact the correct entity if we know where to refer them. But if we don't know the answer, we usually would let them know that we don't, thanks for their questions, but we are not able to provide guidance either, because the question asked doesn't fall within our jurisdiction, or we don't have information on.
So then in the example where maybe an applicant has a question, the board tells them to contact Pearson points the finger back to the board. How is an applicant supposed to handle a situation like that? And then they can't also get contact with a board member.
Thank you. Got it. Thank you for the clarification. So in this situation, usually we will ask what was being provided to the applicants from the vendor, and then if we can make sense of it, we'll try to explain it to them. But if it doesn't, then we will contact the vendor to seek more clarification, and hoping to get a resolution of the issues that the applicant is encountering.
Okay, that is helpful. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Dr. Rogers.
Thank you, Dr. Tate. Thank you, Ms. Chung, for your presentation and all of the solutions that you're working toward. I commend you and the board staff for all of your hard work. I also just want to acknowledge the heartfelt responses that were gathered from the CPA survey. I take those very seriously, as I'm sure all of my colleagues do. And I want to be sensitive to, making sure that we're attending to the concerns of applicants and licensees. So I have 4 questions. I'll try to go through them as quickly as I can. The first one, I think we've already been talking about how to improve response times as it relates to email correspondence and phone call inquiries. I was just curious, is there a system in place at this time that tracks how long an email has been waiting in the queue, or is there a system that tracks how long it's been since someone has called and how long it takes for a response to be given? Is there any data that tracks that on our end at the board?
I don't believe we have that capability to track the time for those inquiries coming in and how long they have been waiting.
Okay. so that leads to my second question from your presentation, Ms. Chung. I can't recall which slide it was, but there was a slide that talks about modernizing the application record keeping system. I was just wondering if you can talk a little bit more about that program and what will be the features of that electronic record. Will there be a mechanism in place with that particular system? I'm just trying to figure out how to ensure that calls that come in or emails that come in don't fall through the cracks. I understand that you're working very hard already, but just trying to figure out what some solutions might be.
I think that part we mentioned about modernizing record keeping is I think that's what you're referring to.
Yes.
That would be under when we talked about the redirection of the OT position to the licensing unit. So what we really hope for that part of the process, because our current process is very paper heavy, so we rely on paper a lot, and then we want to make that change because we believe that electronic records would be more reliable, and it would provide easy access for us if we were to retrieve documentation, or if we receive a phone call having applicants asking us, oh, have you received this? So if we have the electronic records, then we will be able to look for them quickly while they're on the phone. So we can tell them right away, oh, we have received it, it's already in the system, and then it's just in queue waiting for review. And then once we're able to review that, and then analysts will be contacting you. So this is some of the things that we hope to achieve, like by part of modernizing the record keeping on our end.
Okay. And do you have an estimated time frame for when a system like that could be in place?
So right now, we just need the body to be able to help with that process. I think currently we have the basic to allow us to embark on this modernization. Of course, if we see anything else that we need, we will ask for those enhancements in the system by configuring Breeze on our end. But currently, I believe we have the basic that would allow us to at least start the process to see how it is, and then make improvements as necessary along the way.
Okay, that's helpful. And then my third question, I think you were talking about the BCP, and if that is approved, then we would be able to hire new people as of 2024, the fiscal year of 2024 to 2025, which feels really far out. And just as a point of curiosity for me, what's the general length of time that it takes to recruit and hire and then onboard new people? So let's say that we had the green light to bring someone on or recruit beginning tomorrow. What would the time frame really look like before that person could spring into action to help out?
Thank you. So we will, for hiring, we always have to work with HR for the process. So there, I would say like about 3 big steps, just on a high level summary. So the first step would be to create the posting to advertise for the position. And then this time it will include like from start, like until the final filing day. So I would say from the approval process and when towards the end of the final filing date would be about a month. And then when we get to all the application, then we can do review very quickly and then schedule interviews and conclude that part probably in another month or so if we're able to select, if there's a qualified candidates in the pool within that posting. And then once we able to select a candidate, then we will be able to proceed with the getting approval to hire for this person based on their qualifications and all that, if they meet that classification requirement. So we'll wait for approval from HR for that process. And then I say it would be about another month for that process to bring the person on board. So I would say the quickest would be about 3 to 4 months for us to bring somebody on board. And that is based on the assumption that there's not many other approvals waiting to be approved by the HR department, because the HR department does all the approvals for all the boards and bureaus.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. And I just want to reiterate again how appreciative I am of how hard you all are working. And my last question, I am not sure if this is for you, Ms. Chung, or if this is for Ms. Sorick. I'll just throw it out, and whoever feels called to respond, I'd appreciate it. So I really appreciate this particular agenda item. It's so incredibly important, and it's been a long time since I went through the licensing process. It was probably about 17 years ago. So I really appreciate hearing the responses from folks and how it has been impactful in a really difficult way. So this question has a couple of parts to it. So the first question I have, like I said, I went through licensing a long time ago. I've been on the board since 2020. So how long has this particular issue in terms of a backlog and these kinds of impacts, how long would you say this has been an issue to this degree? Does anybody have thoughts or facts or figures on that?
This is Antoinette. I know when I started with the board was experiencing 16 to 18 week backlog at that time.
Okay.
And we hired 3 additional analysts through the budget change proposal process, which thank goodness we have that infrastructure in place now moving forward. And then we did have some temporary help that was assisting with keeping our timeframes down once we filled those positions. And then once we got into a budget situation, we had to look at all of our discretionary funds. So you see some movement in the number of positions we have, and some of that has to do with that discretionary funds and making tough decisions. And unfortunately, the side effect of that was our timeframes went up. Because the 2 retired annuitants that we had as temporary help were the primary responsible individuals in our office that were doing psych associate registration applications. And I know someone made a comment earlier about, well, one person doesn't make an impact, but I believe Ms. Chung gave a stat of, I think, 600 applications per analyst. So one person can really make an impact. And if we can process things more efficiently and effectively, then we're getting less inquiries. So it's a chicken or egg thing for sure. I don't, I know when I started, we used to tell people on the voicemail, don't call us, which never quite sat right with me, but there is also, I think a balance with wanting to make sure we're processing applications so we can, be responsive when we're required to. And I just want to say, I know we can do better than this, and the help that's coming along the way doesn't have to wait for 24, 25. The 3 positions that we talked about earlier, our hope is within the next 2 to 3 months, we'll get those people selected and onboarded. So we don't have to wait till fiscal year 24, 25, but we're at about, Ms. Chung, about an 8 to 10 week backlog right now. It's not 16 weeks, but it's not 2 to 4 weeks either. So we can do better. And, you know, we are taking steps to do that. And being more responsive is something we're very mindful of, and we can do a better job of, and we hear people loud and clear, and we will make sure that message gets across to the staff as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Sorick. And my last question, so it's a sub-question of question 4, it's for you, Ms. Sorick. So I know that California has the largest number of psychologists in the nation. And so I'm wondering how much of, you know, what we're dealing with is because of the sheer volume of applicants that we have, plus, you know, the limited staff. But I'm curious, I'm thinking about ASPPB and if there's any way to be in conversation with other jurisdictions about what they're doing to keep processing times down. Is that a conversation that can be had with other jurisdictions? I'm thinking about, excuse me, New York, for example, that also has a large number of licensees. So is there a way to have conversation across jurisdictions to get suggestions on what kinds of improvements can be made that maybe we haven't thought of yet? And that's my last question. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. I can ask if this could be placed on the BARC agenda, and the BARC group is the collective body of people that are in my position across the country in the Canadian provinces. So I'm happy to ask that be put on the agenda. I know anecdotally in prior BARC meetings that when we've done roundtable discussions, it has come up that other states are also experiencing backlogs and increased timeframes for licensing. And no particular factors that were highlighted as to why that's happening, but there were several states that said, yes, me too kind of situation. But I can definitely ask that be put on the BARC agenda for consideration.
And how often do the BARC meetings take place?
The BARC meetings take place, it depends, but they try and have them between the mid-year meeting and the annual meeting. And then sometimes if something comes up, it'll be more frequent, but it's typically about quarterly what it feels like.
Okay. And I am sorry, I misspoke. I do actually have one other question. It goes back to the question about responding to emails and phone calls. I think it was Dr. Samuels. I hope I'm remembering that accurately, who was talking about the potential increase in phone calls and emails once the new CPD regulations go into effect. So I'm just wondering if there's been any sort of forethought about how we might handle the volume of inquiries we might get moving forward. I know that there was a discussion about some FAQs, but just wondering if there's any plan for what might be coming down the pike. Thank you.
Mr. Glassweigel, would you like to speak on this item?
Yeah, I'm happy to. We are aware of or planning for an extreme increase in questions regarding CPD, and we have a plan in place for how to make sure all of those are responded to. And I will turn it. I'm not sure how much specifics to give at this point. So maybe Ms. Sork, you can step in. That'd be great. Thank you.
We are doing the frequently asked questions. We will be working on updating the forms for CPD. We do have one staff member that is our continuing education coordinator, and she's responsible for that. We have talked about reducing the number of audits if we find that our number of inquiries and phone calls is elevated, so that we can be responsive to those questions and concerns. We've talked about kind of proactively looking at the number of audits during the onboarding year of CPD, so we can be prepared to be responsive. So I can say we've had those discussions, and we'll be prepared to engage in that once the regulations are effective.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sorick, and thank you, Mr. Glass-Steagall. I appreciate it. That's all. Thank you so much.
Dr. Kasuga.
Thank you, Dr. Tate. Just like with everyone else that spoke before me, I want to acknowledge the efforts of the board staff to address this highly important issue of lengthened timelines of processing applications. And I also want to express my understanding of the pain that the people have shared and have experienced with regards to this process. I hear the financial loss, the frustration of agencies and supervisors, as well as, we all are aware that mental health needs of California and the patients needing more psychologists practicing in the field. And I'm probably the most recently licensed psychologist in this board. My license is in the 2600 to 600 to 6,000 actually. Yeah. So this is all too kind of like close to me, and I appreciate all the solutions that people are putting forth, both short term and long term. And Ms. Chung, I know that you. It seems like I just wanted to kind of like clarify first before asking my question. So it seems like there are about like three types of applications we receive. Some of them are like, straightforward applications that are completed ones. There are applications with deficiencies, and then there are some that tend to have like unusual cases, like, is that kind of like pretty much the types of cases that like you've sorted out?
Yes, I would say that would be a good summary.
Thank you. And so like I'm thinking that from some of the things that were shared, that sometimes the unusual cases end up being frustrating because there are times when things are completed but then they are deemed incomplete and stuff like that. And is there a recourse for those unusual cases so they won't go back in line if they unnecessarily need to be in line at the back of the line again? Is there a way to kind of like course correct those those applications?
So for the unusual cases, if you mean that they have to provide us further information for review, if I may ask to clarify?
I guess I have two questions. One is I'm thinking about unnecessary delays, the ones that like I think from the comments there are some where there's like they've submitted everything on their end, and then from the board's end it's not that it's not the same information that from the board's end it's not matching, like there's something that's there's a discrepancy. So I'm wondering, is there like a formal way to kind of like address those discrepancies? Because then I feel like those are the cases that are most frustrating and are they don't really fall under straightforward cases or kind of like applications with deficiencies, because as far as the person the submitted is concerned, they've submitted everything. So it causes some unnecessary delays, it seems to me.
I see what you're saying. Thank you for clarifying. So it sounds like you're asking specifically on applications that the applicants believe that they have submitted everything, but when we do the review, something is missing. It could be, let me just throw out an example, the supervision agreement. If they have submitted a form, then they believe that they have submitted completed application. But when we do the review, we will see that the responses are not there when it's required for the responses to the 3 questions, like the objectives of the SPE, and then what are the duties of the trainees will be doing, and then the necessary periodic assessment and feedback. So we will see that as a deficiency instead of unusual cases, because it is a required component for the application in order for us to move forward with the review. So they will be reviewed and processed according to the date order received when they do their resubmission.
Okay, got it. So some of them tends to be more of like miscommunication or but it would fall under like a deficiency. Okay. So like would you so like in that frame, what would be considered like an unusual case? And are there ways that wherein we can kind of like address those, or like because those unusual cases I'm thinking would require more communication, and it would further delay, kind of like if we're spending a lot of time on those unusual cases, then it kind of like delays the process for the whole system. So I'm just like trying to optimize kind of like every, like as much as we can, every single way we can make improvements on any part.
Thank you, Dr. Kazuga. Yes, there will be unusual cases from time to time, but because of the fairness and transparency, we will still have to process them based on the data they receive. They might be more difficult to work on, but we still need to spend the time to review so that we make sure the applicant understand or know what they can provide to us for review so that we can move them forward in the process. There's not like a specific person to handle unusual cases just based on the number of staff that we're having. But in the future, if we're able to, it might be an idea for us to have a person to handle these unusual cases, so then it won't take up the time on the normal processing queue for completed applications that are ready to go.
Thank you. And so my other question is with regards to the electronic system that that is being talked about. Would that acknowledge receipt of all the forms that has been submitted? Would that give kind of like an automatic receipt to people that like upload things?
That's a good question, Dr. Kazuga, because we thought about that too and also asked that question. So we are working to figure out how the system can help us with the automatic notification. It seems that we're running into some obstacles, just because the system is designed, but regarding acknowledgement, the redirected OT, one of the goals for them is to provide a notification to applicants when we received their materials. It is still manual, but we will continue to explore ways for us to have that automated in the system.
Thank you. That would be most helpful because I know for myself, just getting that gives me a peace of mind that the paperwork has been received. So that's like really helpful. And then I guess my third question, and this is like I have a lot of respect for our board staff, um, and I just wanted to kind of like acknowledge some of the comments that were said with regards uh, the responsiveness, but not only the timeliness of the response, like returning emails and whatnot, but also kind of like the people that are reaching out to us with phone inquiries and um, the some of the examples of like people not being as nice or as responsive. Are phone inquiries recorded or documented by any chance?
I don't believe we can record phone calls. So there's no documentation about the actual conversation happen. Because I'm assuming that you're thinking of like some of the private corporation that when we call that they will have a prompt making a disclaimer that this phone call may be recorded, but we don't have that function to the best of my knowledge.
I mean, I understand that because during the time that I was trying to get licensed, there wasn't any. I was just curious with regards, like documenting who. How about documenting who someone spoke to? I'm just like wondering in terms of effective communication. Sometimes with email, it's so easy to just show that this is the response that I was told, blah blah blah. But then if it's like from a phone inquiry, if someone has given you direction or like information and you carry it out, and it's like no way of referring back to who you spoke to or in case if there are issues.
I see. Yeah, we don't have a record of the phone conversation per se in the phone system. But we try to, if it's like a response that we can trail back to the email address, we always try to provide them something in writing so that they can refer back to. But like you have said, that sometimes only phone contacts it is also hard to trace back what was discussed during that phone call.
Got it. Okay. Thank you so much. I guess that like that helps clarify some things, and hopefully with like the electronic system and with the discussion that we're having with regards ways to optimize processing these applications, we can minimize like lost application, we can minimize delays, and I believe all of that will add up to hopefully shortening these timelines. Thank you.
Mr. Fu, did you have some other comments?
No, they were asked during the course of questioning, and just really appreciate the answers that Ms. Chung has provided, and then the work that the California Psychological Association and its members have done in responding to the membership to help inform this conversation.
Absolutely, and I'm going to echo what you said, Mr. Fu. I know this has been an ongoing process for several months to really look at short-term and long-term solutions. And Ms. Chung, I applaud your tenacity and the energy you've put in to helping our applicants and the board and the public. We look forward to hearing positive updates after staff gets onboarded. So please give us updates on this crisis. So we appreciate it. And I'm just double checking to make sure there are no more board comments, which I'm seeing none. Perfect. Thank you. We can move on to item Number 11, the enforcement report. Ms. Monterrubio, please. If you're talking, you are muted.
No, I am sorry. I could not unmute myself. Sorry about that, Dr. Tate.
Not a problem. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, attached to my enforcement report, or included with my enforcement report, is the overview of enforcement activity, conveying complaint, investigation, and discipline statistics, and our performance measures. So as Ms. Sorick mentioned in her report, Christian Labarello McDonald is the board's new probation monitor. Christian was a former enforcement analyst who has worked with the board for several years. We did have a new enforcement analyst who started yesterday. We're very excited to have this individual join our team. He has great investigative experience, so we again are excited that he is part of our team, and he is currently being onboarded and trained as we speak. Shortly after this report was written, another analyst accepted a new position, and her last day was Wednesday, August 17th. So currently we have 3 vacant positions, 2 enforcement analyst positions, which are AGPAs, and that stands for Associate Governmental Program Analyst, and 1 SSA, which is a Staff Service Analyst. We are looking to backfill the 2 AGPA positions, but we are not backfilling the SSA because that person will be returning in February of 2023. So currently we have 5 individuals in the enforcement unit. We have a heavy workload, as you all know, and we are doing our very best to work each case. We do prioritize the cases that are submitted to us by looking at the complaint prioritization guidelines that I have shared with the board before. There are several different categories. So when a complaint does come in, we do prioritize and see kind of where it falls under and how we need to investigate that particular complaint. We also take a look at the statute of limitations. We want to make sure that we are able to investigate and, if needed, have an accusation filed before that statute of limitations does run out. One other thing enforcement is going through is the OIO process, and OIO stands for Organizational Improvement Office. And what that means is we are trying to figure out how we can streamline some of our processes, go through and figure out how we can go paper light. So currently, and we started this process in January of 2022, and we had a total of 35 processes to map out. And what that basically means is we sit with 2 of the assigned analysts from OIO, and we map out step by step each process, and we determine how long each process takes us. It's been a journey. We meet about 5 hours a week. It's all of enforcement and these 2 representatives. They've done a great job. Staff has done a great job getting everything down in writing and figuring out how we get from point A to point B, which has been very helpful to see. And now, since we finished the mapping, we finished that on Tuesday of this week, OIO is now going to create what they call could-be maps. So after we map out a process, we look to see how we can possibly improve the process. Maybe we don't need every single step in that particular process. So now they're going to provide us with could-be maps for us to consider to see if that would work. And I'm hoping that this entire process ends by the beginning of 2023. But again, that's an additional workload for us right now, given that we do have our 3 vacancies. But hopefully, we will have our 2 AGPA positions filled here within the next couple of months. It is an impact, obviously, on the current enforcement staff because we are taking on the additional workload. But we're doing our best to make sure that we prioritize the complaints, as I mentioned earlier, and making sure that we're aware of those statute of limitations as well. Since July 1st, we have received 85 complaints and all of our complaints are opened and assigned to an analyst, so we are meeting our mandate for that. We have not issued any enforcement citations since July 1st. We have referred 4 cases over to the Office of the Attorney General for formal discipline, and we are currently monitoring 46 probationers, and of the 46 probationers, we only have 1 that is out of compliance. And depending on whether or not we can confirm that the out of compliance did occur, it could be that we issue a citation or refer this matter over to the Attorney General's office for either revocation or possibly even additional discipline added to the probationary term. Are there any questions for me?
Open to the board. Any board members have any questions for Ms. Monterrubio? I'm not seeing any hands, but I'll wait a few seconds. Mr. Moderator, can you please open up public comment for the enforcement report?
Certainly. We are taking public comment on the enforcement report. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. We do not have any requests from the public for comment, but Mr. Fu has his hand raised.
Oh, okay. You can close the public comment box and we'll take Mr. Fu. I almost upgraded you there.
No, it's all good. I actually raised my hand after public comment got open. Ms. Monterrubio, I'm really curious about the performance measures charts, and are those, in terms of the development of those performance measures, can you remind me how they were set up? It looks like there's a DCA component to this. And a related question to that is this the type of performance measure that potentially could be used also for licensing unit with obviously different metrics, but I think it does provide us, at least on the enforcement committee, the ability to see like how things are going in terms of the variance versus the actual versus the target. And so would be curious in terms of the development of these performance measures, and then to the extent which it is easy to do for licensing unit, would love Ms. Chung's thoughts.
Sure. I believe that there are performance measures for the licensing division, but again, I think Stephanie would be probably the more appropriate person to answer that. So there are 8 performance measures. This was, I believe, set up several years ago with the CPEI through the Department of Consumer Affairs. All boards and bureaus need to report their measures. The reports are run by the department, and then they give us the opportunity to reconcile any mistakes that are made. But each target has a target date. So if we were to look at performance measure 1, let's say, and that's case volume, it will tell you the complaints that we've received, the convictions, the arrests, and the total volume. If we were to go to performance measure 3, which is investigation, it's going to have a target date there as well, and then the actual date of how long it takes. It also gives the breakdown of how many investigations were handled in a particular month. Let's say it was January, February, and March. It'll give the total for that. But this is a good resource to see how the enforcement unit is processing complaints and investigations and even discipline. I know in the past I've mentioned before that performance measure number 4 is a very difficult measure for us to achieve, because I believe it's 540 days for us to get a case to the Attorney General's office and then have formal discipline occur. And when we're relying on outside entities, it really is difficult for us to hit a target date. It is much easier, obviously, if we have full control over that complaint from beginning to end, and those performance measures that we are responsible for, and we're not relying on any outside entity like the Attorney General's office or even the Division of Investigation, are much easier for us to achieve. But this is a good snapshot for each quarter as to what the enforcement unit is able to do. As I mentioned earlier, we have several vacancies, and it is going to be a challenge for us to investigate complaints, refer complaints out because there's such a high volume. But I think the fact that we are able to prioritize the complaints that we receive, look at the statute of limitations, that is truly going to help us work the cases that have egregious violations. And what I mean by that is if we get a case that there's sexual misconduct alleged, that obviously is high priority. We need to make sure that we can have a formal investigation done immediately and try to get that licensee possibly revoked if the allegations were substantiated. We want that person obviously out of practice. However, if we get a complaint that maybe someone didn't get their patient records in a timely manner, still received them, but they still want to file a complaint because it took maybe a bit longer. That is very important as well, I understand, but in regards to comparing that to a sexual misconduct, we do have to prioritize and pay close attention to those cases that really, really need our attention. We try very hard every quarter to meet our target dates. That is not always going to happen, unfortunately, but these performance measures are shared with my team. I like for us to look at them and discuss how we can try to hit our target dates. When we send cases out to the Division of Investigation, we were told to check back with them in about 90 days to see when it's assigned. So all of my analysts put notification in their Outlook to remind them to go and check with DFI to see how things are going. And we try to check in with them every 30 days because we want to make sure that our cases are being investigated. And we understand they have a very high workload as well. And they also have to prioritize. But we want to make sure that our cases are being investigated. And it's the same thing with the Attorney General's office. We're very lucky that the AGs pay close attention to our cases, work with our analysts to make sure that accusations are being filed, and we provide stipulated settlement terms as quickly as we can to get cases moving so that we don't have them pending for very long. So again, we're doing the very best that we can. Again, sorry that we can't hit every target date, but we do try our very best. And again, we have more control over cases that we touch from beginning to end, and we don't have to rely on an outside entity. But when the AG's office is involved and the Division of Investigation is involved, we're probably going to have some added time there. And again, I just think that everyone is probably overloaded with casework. But we do have communication styles in place so that we can check in, talk to supervisors if we need to. But we will continue to try to meet our target dates.
Thank you, Ms. Monterrubio. Dr. Tate?
Thank you. I do not see any more board comment. I'm just going to run through it one more time. Thank you, Ms. Monterrubio, for your report and answering all the questions. We appreciate you. But we can move on to agenda item number 13. This is the Legislative and Regulatory Affairs Committee report and consideration of committee recommendations. Dr. Cervantes is the chairperson of this committee. Dr. Cervantes, please.
Thank you, Dr. Tate. The Legislative and Regulatory Affairs Committee had its last meeting of the year in June of 2022, and we're a little less than a month away from the end of the two-year legislative session. I want to thank the team, Ms. Sorick, Mr. Glass-Steagall, and Ms. Costadero for monitoring and reporting the legislation we will review today. So let me begin with item 13A, legislation from the 2021 legislative session. This is review and possible action. Item 13A1 is board-sponsored legislation, SB 401 by Senator Pan, Healing Arts Psychology, amendments to sections 2960 and 2960.1 of the Business and Professions Code regarding denial, suspension, and revocation for acts of sexual contact. This item begins on page 141 of the combined packet. Ms. Costadero, can you provide us an update on this bill? Is she with us?
She is unmuted, but Ms. Costadero, we are unable to hear you at this point.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, try one more time.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me now? Does this work?
You just sound very far away.
Okay.
Getting closer to the microphone will possibly work.
Okay, how about this?
Better.
Okay. Sorry about that. Item 13A1 is SB 401 by Dr. Pan and is our sponsor bill. On August 16th, 2022, SB 401 moved to engrossing and enrolling, which means it is onto the governor's desk. If it is presented to the governor before August 20th, he will have 12 days to act on the bill. This 12-day period begins once the bill has been, quote, presented to the governor, not the day that the bill passed out of the Senate or Assembly. He can sign it, veto it, or allow the bill to become law without a signature, also known as a pocket signature. If the bill is presented to him after August 20th, he has 30 days to act on the bill. Board staff has submitted a letter to the governor's office requesting his signature. That concludes my remarks for SB 401. I am available for questions about this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any board or staff questions or comments for Ms. Costadero? I don't see any, but I'm a little bit slow on my scrolling here.
This is the moderator. There are no additional hands up.
Okay, thank you so much.
Dr. Cervantes, this is Dr. Kasuga.
Go ahead, Dr. Kasuga.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment that I am very happy that this legislation has has progressed to where it is now, and I'm looking forward for it to be made into a law soon. Thank you.
Thank you. It has been a long journey. Some of it, or a lot of it, actually out of our control, but it is good to be at this point now. Thank you so much. We don't have an action. This is information. So maybe someone can help me make sure I'm progressing the right way.
Hi, Dr. Cervantes. Yeah, just board
no public comment.
And public comment, yes, please.
Oh, and public comment. Okay, let's open public comment, please. Sorry. Thank you, Dr. Tate.
All right, we are now taking public comment on this matter. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to return to the agenda?
Yes, please. Thank you. We are going to move now to item 13A2, and these are bills with active positions taken by the board. This is also an information item, so by way of housekeeping here, what we'll do is we will hear the reports on the bills, on the two bills. and then we'll open for board comments and public comments. So item 13A2A is AB 32 Aguiar Curry on telehealth. The board took a position of support. This item begins on page 153 of the combined packet. Ms. Costadero.
Thank you, Dr. Cervantes. Item 13A2A is AB 32 by Assemblymember Aguiar Curry. This bill expands the definition of synchronous interaction for purposes of telehealth to include audio, video, audio only, such as telephone, and other virtual communication. This bill is currently moving after a long time stalled in policy committee and is now on the Senate floor. It will need to go back to the Assembly floor for concurrence once it is passed out of the Senate. Board staff is in the approval process for submitting a letter to both floors and the governor's office. That concludes my remarks for AB 32. I am available for questions about this bill.
Thank you. The next item is letter B, SB 731 Durazo, Criminal Records Relief. This item is in the hand carry folder. Ms. Costadero.
Thank you. Item 13A2B is SB 731 by Senator Durazo. This bill, as amended June 23, 2022, would expand automatic arrest record and conviction relief to additional specified felonies effective July 1, 2023, and subject to an appropriation in the Annual Budget Act. It would expand discretionary expungement relief to include felonies in which the defendant was sentenced to state prison. It would also expand automatic conviction relief to include felonies committed after January 1, 2005, where the defendant was not granted probation and did not complete probation without revocation. This bill would exclude serious and violent felonies and felonies requiring sex offender registration. Board staff and legal counsel took a thorough look at this bill. Back in April 2021, the bill was amended to remove our initial concerns about modifying our authority to ask for criminal histories that are granted relief. This bill instead adds more felonies that are eligible for automatic relief, while the board is already unable to act based on criminal conviction relief. So even though our initial concern has been removed, there are still serious concerns from board staff about this bill. Therefore, board staff still recommends an opposed position. Currently, this bill is on its way to the governor's office as it passed its last legislative hurdle yesterday, getting off the Senate floor for concurrence. Board staff is working on a letter to the governor requesting a veto on this bill. That concludes my remarks for SB 731, and I'm available for questions about this bill and our position. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Costadero. I just want to clarify. Our board took an opposed position to SB 731, and that is still our position on the bill.
Correct. I just wanted to clarify why we're opposing the bill, because our initial concern was amended out. However, there are still other concerns that we have regarding the added felonies that can be that are eligible for automatic relief, if that makes sense.
It does to me. Do we need another motion for this?
These are information only.
They are information only, but what Ms. Costadero is sharing is a change in why we're opposing.
This is Jason. If Ms. Marks could weigh in, that would be great. As I agree, there is no actual change to the position, but because of the logic behind the position, maybe it would be reasonable.
If the board would like to inform the author that while the initial concern for the bill was now amended out, but the board still has concerns based on other bases, then you would want to take, I think, an additional vote on the position in order to allow the board to forward those that information to the author.
Okay, thank you. Let me see. I'm gonna need help with the motion. Our motion would be to
I think the motion would be based on board staff recommendation to oppose the bill and for the board's current concerns to the author.
do I hear a motion to
I'm happy. So move. That's Leah takes.
Thank you, Dr. Tate.
Dr. Phillips seconded.
Dr. Tate has moved a motion that we oppose SB 731, given staff recommendations, and it's been seconded by Dr.
Phillips.
Dr. Phillips. So that's our motion on the floor. Thank you, folks. I think I'm getting the Friday afternoons here. So, is there any other board comment on this item?
Ms. Nystrom has her hand up.
Okay, Ms. Nystrom?
Hi, this is Ms. Nystrom. I will recuse myself from this vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other board comment? Okay, we'll go ahead and open public comment and then come back for a vote. Thank you.
We are now accepting public comment on the motion. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to return to the motion?
Yes, please. And can we call for a vote?
Ms. Proto, please call the roll.
Yes. Kasuga.
Aye.
Cervantes.
Aye.
Fu.
Aye.
Harb-Sheets.
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
Riscate.
Aye.
Rogers.
Aye.
Tate.
Aye.
And one recusal with Ms. Riscate. Thank you.
Motion carries.
Ms. Nystrom.
The Ms. Nystrom's the recusal.
Apologies, Ms. Nystrom. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, folks. This is a clumsy execution, but we got it through that we will continue to oppose SB 731, given the concerns that staff raised. Thank you very much. Now, I just want to open board comment on item 13A2. We discussed the two bills that we have active positions on. Is there additional comment on this item? I don't see any. Can we open public comment on this? Is public comment on item 13A2, the bills with active position.
We are now taking public comment on the bills with active positions. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to return to the agenda?
Yes, please. Okay, thank you. So now on item 13A3, these are the watch bills, and we have one. that remains active. It's AB 646 by Lowe, Department of Consumer Affairs, Boards Expunged Convictions. This is also an information item only. We will hear reports on the bill and then open for board comment and public comment. The item begins on page 214 of the combined packet. Ms. Costa, Darrow?
Thank you, Dr. Cervantes. Item 13A3A is AB 646 by Assemblymember Lowe. It failed to pass out of the Senate Appropriations Committee on August 11th and was held in suspense. That concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any board comment on this item? I see none. Can we open public comment on this item?
We are now open for public comment on this item. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to return to the agenda?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so moving to the next item, 13B. This is legislation from the 2022 legislative session, review and possible action. The first item is a review of bills for active position recommendations to the board. AB 2222 by Reyes, Student Financial Aid, Golden State Social Opportunities Program. This item begins on page 216 of the combined packet. Ms. Costa Darrow?
Thank you, Dr. Cervantes. Item 13B1 is AB 2222 by Assemblymember Reyes. This bill, as amended August 17th, 2022, creates the Golden State Social Opportunities Program, which would, upon an annual appropriation in the budget or otherwise, require the California Student Aid Commission, CSAC, to provide grants of up to $20,000 to enrolled postgraduate students who commit to working in a California-based nonprofit for a period of 2 years upon completion of the postgraduate program that leads to careers within specified mental health professions, including registered psychological associates. The Legislative and Regulatory Affairs Committee saw a version of this bill on June 10th, 2022. At that time, board staff had concerns about the bill and recommended a support if amended position because the bill would have required the board to track the work settings of grant recipients to certify whether these registered psychological associates were working in California-based nonprofits. The version of the bill, as amended August 17th, 2022, has these concerns removed. Additionally, the latest version has removed language requiring an annual budget appropriation. Board staff recommends a support position on this bill. Once the position is approved by the full board, I will work on an appropriate letter, board staff will work on an appropriate letter, either a floor alert or a letter to the governor requesting signature. That concludes my remarks on AB 2222 by Assemblymember Reyes. I am available for questions about the bill, analysis, or recommended position. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Costa Darrow. Do I hear a motion to adopt a support position on AB 2222? Reyes?
So move. This is Leah Tate.
I second it. This is Dr. Kasuga.
Thank you. It's been moved by Dr. Tate and seconded by Dr. Kasuga to adopt a support position for AB 2222 Reyes. Is there any additional board comment on this item?
Ms. Nystrom has her hand up. Dr. Cervantes.
Ms. Nystrom?
I'll recuse myself on this item as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no other hands up. Can we open public comment?
We are now taking public comment on the motion. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand. We will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, shall we return to the motion?
Yes, please. Ms. Preto, let's call the vote.
Kasuga.
Aye.
Cervantes.
Aye.
Hu.
Aye.
Harp-Sheets.
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
Riscate.
Aye.
Rogers.
Aye.
Tate.
Aye.
And one recusal for Nystrom. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion carries. Moving to the next item, this is item 13B2, bills with active positions taken by the board. What we'll do with this item is we'll hear reports on the 3 bills, and then we'll open for board comment and questions. Board comment and then public comment. Okay, so item 2A is AB 1662 Gibson, Licensing Board's Disqualification from Licensure and Criminal Conviction. This item begins on page 229 of the combined packet. Ms. Costadero?
Thank you, Dr. Cervantes. Item 13B2A is AB 1662 by Assemblymember Gibson. This bill would have authorized a prospective applicant that has been convicted of a crime to submit to any board or bureau a request for pre-application determination that includes information provided by the prospective candidate applicant regarding their criminal conviction. This bill died in the Assembly Appropriations Committee on August 11th, 2022, as it was held in suspense. Therefore, this bill is not moving forward this year. The board took an opposed position on this bill in April. That concludes my remarks on AB 1662 by Assemblymember Gibson. I'm available for questions about the bill, or thank you very much.
Thank you. And moving to item B, AB 2754, Bauer Kahan, Psychology Supervising Psychologist Qualification. This item begins on page 248 of the combined packet. Ms. Costadero.
Thank you. Item 13B2B is AB 2754 by Assemblymember Bauer Kahan. This bill would authorize remote psychological supervision and take effect immediately. The board adopted a support position on AB 2754 on April 29th, 2022. The bill was presented to the governor on Tuesday, August 16th. This means the governor has 12 days to act on the bill, and since the 12th day lands on a Sunday, he has until August 29th to act on it, either through signing it, vetoing it, or not acting on it, which would result in a pocket signature. Board staff has submitted a letter to the governor requesting his signature. That concludes my remarks on AB 2754. Thank you.
Thank you. And now item C, SB 1428, Archuleta, Psychologist, Psychological Testing Technician Registration. This item begins on page 266 of the combined packet. Ms. Costadero.
Thank you. The final bill in item 13B is SB 1428 by Senator Archuleta. This bill would create a new registration within the Board of Psychology for psychological testing technicians. On April 29th, 2022, the board took a support if amended position on SB 1428. On May 23rd, 2022, the author amended the bill on the Senate floor to include the board's amendments, plus one amendment that the board did not review. within Business and Professions Code section 2999.101C3, the bill provides that a person engaged in gaining the experience can administer and score psychological and neuropsychological tests. Board staff did not have that additional language included in the board-approved amendments, and staff does not have any concerns about this amendment since it is consistent with our Practice Act. Therefore, board staff had modified the position to a support position on SB 1428 Archuleta. This bill is on the assembly floor, and board staff is in the process of getting a letter approved to submit to both the assembly floor and the governor's office. That concludes my remarks on SB 1428 by Senator Archuleta. I am available for questions about the bill, analysis, or recommended position. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Costadero. Is there any board or staff comments on these three bills?
Dr. Cervantes, can I just interrupt briefly?
Sure.
I just wanted the board and the public to know that Mr. Seiran Fu is off the call at this time. He may return in the future, but we still have a quorum. Sorry for the interruption.
Oh, thank you. I missed that. Thank you. Okay. Is there any board or staff comment on these three bills? Okay, let's, I see none, so let's go ahead and open public comment.
We are now accepting public comment on these bills. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. And our first request comes from Jolinder Crow. Hold on just a moment. We are sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Thank you.
Crow with the California Psychological Association. I just want to thank the board and particularly the board staff, Ms. Sorick, Ms. Costadero, for the board's support on these two CPA-sponsored bills, AB 2754 on the remote supervision and SB 1428. As you heard, the supervision bill is now on the governor's desk, waiting his signature. And because of the urgency clause, will become effective as soon as he signs it before the waiver expires, we hope. SB 1428, I want to particularly thank Ms. Sorick and Ms. Costadero for helping us at the last minute. We were concerned about the bill and appropriations and in the suspense file. And it was really a nice thing to be able to work with the board and to get your support in helping us get that over the finish line, at least to get out of appropriation. So we're just hopeful for the final vote on the assembly floor and onto the governor's desk. So thank you again for working with us on this, on the two bills that we sponsored this year.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
There are no other requests for public comment at the moment.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move to the next item. The next item, number 3, are our watch bills for the 2022 year. And this is an information item. No action is required. The summaries and statuses of these bills can be found in the combined packet between page 281 and 320. Are there any bills that the board would like to discuss from those listed here on the agenda? I see no comment. Or from staff either, right? Okay. Let's open public comment on our watch bills for 2022.
We are now taking public comment on the watch bills. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to return to the agenda?
Yes, please. Okay. Thank you so much. Moving to item 4, so item 13.4. This is asking for legislative items for future meetings. The board may discuss other items of legislation in sufficient detail to determine whether such items should be on a future board meeting agenda and or whether to hold a special meeting of the board to discuss such items pursuant to Government Code Section 11125.4. Are there any comments from the board or staff on future legislative items? I see none. Can we open public comment on this item?
We are now taking public comment on 13B4. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no requests, do you wish to return to the agenda?
Yes, please. Okay, before I move to the next section, Dr. Tate, which is our regulatory update, I just want to do a check with you. Is this a good time for a break, or should we just go ahead and do our next item, which is also informational?
Let's do the next item, and we can take a 10-minute break after you're done.
Okay, thank you. So our next item is our regulatory update, and this is item number 5. Regulatory update, review and consideration of additional changes. This item begins on page 321 of the combined packet. Mr. Glassbeagle?
Thank you, Dr. Cervantes. Good afternoon, board members. Included in your meeting materials is agenda item number 13B5, which is the regulatory update. I'm going to go through each of these packages and let you guys know the current status. Package A, which is the continuing professional development package, it was approved by the Office of Administrative Law on June 29th, 2022, and the package will be effective January 1, 2023. This is a friendly reminder that anybody who expires in 2023 can utilize either the new continuing professional development requirements or the requirements as stated prior, so the current continuing education requirements as it reads in 2022. The psychological associate package, which is B, was noticed for the 45-day comment period on June 7th, 2022. The comment period ended August 2nd, so 17 days ago. We received no comments, and I began working on the final documents for the regulatory package. But while doing that, realized that one of the minutes that were cited in the underlying data, which is included within the initial statement of reasons, and that is the document that lists out all of the arguments and basis and reasoning for making all of the changes included. And it also lists everything underlying. So there's a document in there. I actually can't remember all the specifics, but there's usually, I know we have board meeting minutes, committee meeting minutes, and sometimes any underlying factual documents by maybe something by ASPBB or APA or really any other organizations. But one of the minutes that we cited was related to the retired license package and not this package. So to make a change to the underlying data, it requires a 15-day notice of text being added or deleted from the file, because I'll have to delete the wrong minutes and add the right one. So that will be a 15-day period for that. And then after that's done, I will be able to complete the final rulemaking documents. And for the Office of Administrative Laws, just to make sure there's no issues regarding board approval of the language, we will be bringing it back to the board in November for an adoption vote. Moving on to C, the inactive psychological associate registration. That is a package that's going to be started right after B, the one I just mentioned, the 2016 psychological associate package is submitted to the Office of Administrative Law. So C will give our registered psychological associates an option to have an inactive registration while they are not gaining hours. Right now, the only option is to have their registration canceled. Otherwise, their time limit clock continues to tick. The psychologist fee package, which is listed in D, was approved by the Office of Administrative Law on May 6th and became law July 1. And everything was implemented in Breeze, I believe, by the 15th of July. All the fee changes were implemented. The Disciplinary Guidelines Uniform Standards Regulatory Package, which is E, is currently being drafted right now by staff and should be moving through the DC review process as soon, well, hopefully soon, well, it's definitely going to be as soon as possible, hopefully in the next few months. These are, the major point is the drafting of the initial statement of reasons, which takes a very long time and has to be extremely detailed and thorough. The next package would be F, which is the Pathways to Licensure package. I received feedback that my mic is cutting out, but if anybody is having a hard time hearing me, let me know. The Pathways to Licensure package is also in the drafting phase. That is in line to be drafted after the disciplinary guidelines package. That would be the initial statement of reasons. And notice, which includes an informative digest. Finally, the next one would be the enforcement provisions, which is a rewrite of basically all regulatory sections that involve the board's enforcement of our laws and regulations. And that is third in line after the Pathways to Licensure package. That concludes the information regarding this agenda item. It is informational purposes only, and I am happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glass-Steagall. There's no action required for this item. Is there any staff, board or staff comments? I see none. Can we open public comment, please?
We are now open for public comment on the regulatory update. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, shall we return to the agenda?
Yes, thank you. So in closing, I just want to thank Dr. Phillips and Dr. Kasuga for serving on the Legislative and Regulatory Affairs Committee with me. As next steps, the committee and staff will begin working on statutory changes approved by the board for the, for the 2023 legislative, I'm sorry, for the 2023 cycle. This concludes my report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Cervantes. Nice job with that report. Let's take a 10-minute break and reconvene at 3:25, and we can dive right into agenda item number 14. Thank you. Is Ms. Pruteau calling the roll, or is it Mr. Glass-Steagall?
I'm happy to, in Ms. Proto's absence. Yeah.
Okay, before you call the roll, Dr. Phillips will not be joining us the rest of the afternoon.
Okay. I will be going down the order of the agenda just so everyone is aware. So it's not going to be in alphabetical order. Tate.
Here.
Kasuga.
Here.
Cervantes.
Here.
Harbsheets.
Here.
Nystrom.
Here.
Phillips. Oh, I'm sorry. Riscate.
Here.
Rogers.
Here.
Roll is taken minus Dr. Phillips and Mr. Fu.
Perfect, and we still have a quorum. So I would like to jump to agenda item number 14. This is a consideration of any written comments and responses and possible adoption of 16 CCR sections 1381.10, 1392, and 1397.69, retired license, renewal of expired license, and psychologist fees in relation to the retired license. Mr. Glass-Steagall, please.
Thank you, Dr. Tate. Good afternoon, board members. For agenda item 14, as stated regarding the retired license and renewal of expired license and psychologist fees related to the retired license, this rulemaking file brings the board in compliance with changes enacted by SB 1193, which is authored by Senator Hill, Chapter 44, Statutes of 2016. This package was noticed for the initial 45-day comment period on October 15th, 2021. The comment period for this rulemaking file ended on November 30th, 2021. The regulatory hearing took place on December 1st, 2021. Due to the absence of any negative comments, the board voted to approve the language as noticed at the February 2022 board meeting. The package was then subsequently submitted to the Office of Administrative Law for their final review on May 9th of 2022. During their review, OAL suggested some changes which were incorporated into the modified text and noticed on July 5th of 2022. The comment period for this modified text ran through July 21 of 2022. Comments received for the board's consideration, and they are summarized below. I would like to clarify that comments 1, 2, and 3 were all received within the comment period, so between July 5th and July 21st, but the comments were generally outside the scope of the modified text. Comment 4 was received before the comment period for the modified text, so the statement regarding the statement under the board's response is correct. Staff recommends that after consideration of the comments received as reflected above, the board should adopt the modified regulation text with no further changes and approve all of the comment responses with the following motion. Adopt the modified text as noticed, approve the responses to all comments received during the 15-day comment period with my caveat of the timing of the comments. Delegate to the executive officer the ability to make any technical or non-substantive edits to the text in order to secure final approval from the Office of Administrative Law. Included is the 15-day written comments and the modified regulation text forms and explanation of form changes. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
So moved, Dr. Harpsheets.
And I would second that. This is Dr. Tate. Is there any other board comment at this time? I'm rolling through it slowly. Okay, I do not see any hands. If I have missed you, please interrupt me.
Dr. Tate, if I could add one more piece of clarification regarding comment 1.
Oh, absolutely.
I just want to make sure that it is clearly stated that Social Security numbers are never released by board staff. That is all.
Thank you for that clarification. It's important to know. Okay, no board comment. Can we please open up public comment, Mr. Moderator?
We are now taking public comment on agenda item 14. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. Let's take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for comment, would you like to return to the agenda?
Yes, please. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any more board comment before we vote? I still do not see any hands. Mr. Glassbeagle or Ms. Pruteau, would you like to call the roll?
I am happy to
Yes,
call
I have it. Sorry, I was unmuting myself there. Kasuga.
Aye.
Cervantes.
Aye.
Harpsheets.
Aye.
Nystrom.
Aye.
Phillips. Oh, sorry, not calling Phillips. Riscate.
Aye.
Rogers.
Aye.
Tate.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that motion carries. We are now moving on to agenda item 15. This is recommendations for agenda items for future board meetings. The board may not discuss or take action on any matter raised during this public comment section, except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. And I'm going to open up for any board suggestions, but I have one, so I'm going to say it right now. I'd like to see the licensing timeframe update from Ms. Chung for our November meeting. And I'm happy to open it up to any other board members with suggestions.
Hi, Dr. Tate.
Yes, Dr. Kasuga.
I'm looking forward to our next board meeting in person, and I would love to have a mindfulness activity to start our board meeting once again.
Okay, we'll have to get Dr. Rogers on that.
You got it, Dr. Kasuga.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for the suggestion, Dr. Kasuga. Any other board comment? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Oh, Dr. Harpsheets.
Sorry, it took me a while to unmute. Just a reminder that Dr. Cervantes and Ms. Chung and I will be meeting to talk again about the correspondence with applicants, and we'll provide an update on that, and with changes be asking the board to review those.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you for reminding.
Yeah.
I'm looking for any other board members. I do not see any hands. Can we please open public comment for agenda item 15, Mr. Moderator?
We are now taking public comment on agenda item 15. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment.
Dr. Tate, this is Dr. Kasuga.
Yes.
I wanted to have an ASBBB update again if we have more information from October.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for mentioning that.
We have a request for comment from Dr. Winkleman. Hold on just a moment. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Hi, thank you. It's Dr. Elizabeth Winkleman, again from California Psychological Association. Thank you, Dr. Tate, for putting an update on the licensing timeframes on the agenda. I was hoping for that, and I'm glad to appreciate that you've already put that on the agenda. I wanted to ask as well that you consider adding an update on the responsiveness to general phone and email inquiries. Because that is another important issue that came up and was discussed in today's meeting. Thank you.
And that was our only request for comment. Shall we return to the agenda?
Yes, and thank you for your help. We are moving on to agenda item number 16. The board will meet in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 11126C3 to discuss disciplinary matters, including proposed decisions, stipulations, petitions for reconsideration, and remands. The board will now be going into closed session and will only be reconvening to adjourn the August board meeting. And thank you to everyone for participating in our meeting today.